Ask Mike, brought to you by the Stadium Shop on Razorback in Fayetteville.
Happy Monday, everybody. It's another edition of Ask Mike, or should I say, Ask Dudley. Since Mike Irwin is on vacation this week, some of you already know this, but we have the lovely Dudley Dawson here with us to answer all of your questions for this week. Dudley, are you excited to get into it?
Proper amount of grouchy and informative, I hope.
I like that. That's perfect. You'll be a great addition to the show this week. Let's get right into it, though, because we have a lot of questions. In Hogs We Trust on Hogville asked Dudley, hey, neighbor, what are you hearing about the scuffle at the end of the SDSU game?
Well, I think there's plenty of culpability to go around. It's clear that the San Diego State fans have not liked Coach Musselman for a long time, something to do there with winning against him and all that. I do think that obviously Coach Musselman, or at least him or the people above him, have figured out that he kind of escalated the situation and needed to apologize, so they've taken care of that. But I've covered that thing many a time, and there's never been any security problems, but I bet there's plenty of it next year. And my one thing is fans should never go on the court, the field, the pitch, whatever, unless you're invited, and I didn't see no invitations being sent out, the other day.
No, it's definitely a difficult situation as well, because you never want to get involved in those situations. But I was talking to my dad about this. I was like, Dad, have you ever gotten in a scuffle? And he goes, yeah, there's a few I've gotten into, but it's one of those things where you kind of have to be like, hey, as much as you can, don't get involved. And that's hard to say when people are egging you on and saying...
Maybe I'm not the best person to answer. In my high school career in football and basketball, I got 16 personal foul penalties for late hits, taunting,
Dudley, I love
and
it.
even going into the stands fighting one time. So maybe I wasn't the calmest guy back then.
Well, there you go. Well, next question is from Slobber Slob on Hogville, who asks, any idea when Nick Smith Jr. will be on the court? I understand it's precautionary. Nobody wants him hurt, but I'd sure like to see how good these guys are at full strength.
Nick's arrival is imminent from the sources I'm hearing. May even end up playing in the next game or two. Certainly, he is a great basketball player, one that's got a great NBA future. You don't want to rush him back, and I'm sure his family didn't want him rushed back too. And really, it's about having him ready for the end when Arkansas needs to make the run at the national championship, instead of having him play these early games. I know everybody wants to see him play because he's so good and see them together, but I think this has been a very wise thing for everybody to do.
A lot of people thought they would see him in Maui, and I was like, look, you'll see him in Maui if he's ready to go in Maui. And I think they even held him out a little bit longer because maybe the injury is on our end something that we don't know the full extent of.
Yeah, and having been in the Lehigh Civic Center a lot, that's not necessarily the safest floor ever. I would think there was some caution used there. And now you get back to your home arena where, you can get back and play, and I think everything will go well. But I think it was very wise for them to do that.
I think so as well, Dudley. Somebody else asked, and I wasn't able to fit it in to Ask Mike since they asked a lot of great other questions. I think it was Blood Red Hog. If I'm wrong on that, correct me. But he was like, do you think it's the university that's keeping him out, or some of Nick Smith Jr.'s own people? And I think that there's maybe a couple of both in there, since he does have such a high NBA draft stock. You might have your people being a little more precautionary, maybe his family, maybe his NIL agent, who's a big NBA agent. What do you feel on that?
Well, I think it was a mutual decision from all parties involved. I do think that he has been heard. Those people who have been suggesting that he wasn't and he was just resting for the NBA, I think are, out there. Let's put that out there. But I do think it's a wise decision, and obviously you're going to get to see him soon. But again, I think it was a mutual decision from everybody that probably worked in everybody's favor.
Yeah, exactly. Hot Dogger on Hogville asks, hey, Dudley, so I know we likely need to add some talented O-line players and quarterbacks. Any word on Walker White or any other potential recruits out there that aren't on the radar yet?
Walker White is the outstanding junior quarterback from Little Rock Christian, has offers from Arkansas, Ole Miss. Most recent is Alabama, and a lot of other people. He won't be here till 2024, so he's a junior. But he is right in that they will need to add some quarterbacks to the room. They'll certainly need to add just about guys at every position except maybe tight end, where they've got 3 tight ends, all 4 stars, considered the nation's best, coming in to play at that position. But everything else, whether it be from the high school 23 recruits that they have or the transfer portal, they need to improve every place, because that's what you do when you go 6-6.
Yeah, and you have to hit the portal hard as well. That's what Pittman was talking about. He's like, normally I wouldn't say that, but the way this age has become of the transfer portal, we're going to have to hit the portal harder than ever before, right?
Yeah, and this week is National Jump in the Portal Day and week,
Yes.
so expect plenty to be in there.
And we'll keep you updated, of course, on hogville.net and knwa.com on all the changes that are going on, of the announcements of people leaving, entering the transfer portal, maybe people coming back to stay. We'll update you right there. That will be the place to go if you want information on that. Hog Hillbilly on Hogville asks, every team we've played this season has had a player that set some kind of personal or team record against us. Rocket doesn't get the SEC rushing honor with only 10 carries. KJ was sacked 7 times. So my question is, how in the world is the offensive line getting worse? And I believe the question continues on with, that's Pittman's expertise, right? I've never seen it this bad. This loss was on them. This back and forth of having a great game and then not showing up the next week is getting frustrating. Did Pittman reach his ceiling last year? Should we just accept that we're a basketball school?
First of all, Arkansas is not just a basketball school. It's a baseball school, a football school, a women's
Softball
sports,
school.
softball, women's sports. It's an all-around sports school. That's what the director's rankings are for, and that shows that Arkansas has been that. As far as Rocket, 10 carries, 10 touches. I believe he had 11 touch with the catch. There's no way, no how that should happen. End of story, period. You've got to find a way, so there was no excuse for that. As far as setting records, I think that's because you're passionate. I don't think it's happening every week, but certainly it happens some. But I think because he's a fan and cares, that seems like that. As far as the inconsistency, that's something that's got to stop. You cannot have one game where you play world beaters and another one where you come out there and you just don't have any energy. So that's something that I think will be looked at, talked about, and rectified.
Do you think it's a motivation thing?
From all we hear, Coach Pittman is a very good motivator.
Yeah.
But you get in this situation, and I think we've got a question later that I'm going to expand on this. That you can't get up for LSU and Mississippi and not get up for Missouri.
Yeah, exactly. I agree completely.
Or Liberty.
Or Liberty. We always want to forget that one, but Liberty as well. Blood Red Hog on Hogville asks, is Sam Pittman our Mike Anderson of football? He came in and righted the ship, but never could get us to the promised land.
Well, when I first read this question, I thought, well, that's probably a negative connotation there. But Coach Mike Anderson has never had a losing season. He has been to one Elite 8, one Sweet 16, which, kind of is dwarfed by Coach Musselman's early success. But certainly, I think he was a very good coach here. But you take that, what his statement has, is Coach Pittman in the same type vein? I don't think we know yet. I mean, he's only been here 3 years. 1 year was held as great. This year is held as down.
Not so great.
Yeah, it's down, being 6-6. So I think that we just don't have a definitive thing on that yet, but things are going to have to improve, and certainly there's going to be some changes. It's already started.
And we'll talk about that because we have some more questions about those changes and those staff changes happening as we speak on the football team. But we have another question from Hot Dogger. I included this question because I liked it as well. What is it? Musselman is able to recruit top-notch 4- and 5-star players, but the football program can't seem to find a way to get those kind of quality players. Why is there such a big gap between the basketball and football programs and transfer portal recruiting?
Well,
sorry. And then maybe Musk needs to school Pittman with the secret recipe. That was a little
if there was
extra.
a secret recipe, I'm sure he would be getting paid as a consultant as well as head basketball coach. But it's real easy when you have 13 basketball scholarships and 85 football scholarships to try to, pair those and say, hey, that should be happening if it's happening here. Coach Musselman has an NBA background that plays a lot with the recruits. Mm-hmm. He has in the background where when he coached at Nevada and in other places that he was able to get the transfer. So he has kind of mastered that. It's a lot harder. It's not an excuse, but it's a lot harder when you have 85 scholarships to try to get to a point to where You have, I mean, let's just look at this. If you have 6 basketball players that are 5 stars, you would need to have 40-something football players to have equal thing. So I think that, the recruiting's got to improve, but you look at this is a guy who took over a program that had won 7 of its last 36 games at one point. They did well off the 9-4 season last year. It's going to be tough recruiting off of 6-6, but that's what you do. And he has let some people go, because of recruiting. So I don't think you'll have any problems dealing with that.
Yeah, I definitely think this offseason will be telling for the future of the football program for sure. And it is a lot easier for 13 versus 85 for sure. That is quite a large difference. Nash, Wupig Sui 18 on Hogville asks, Rocket, 10 carries. What is going on there, Dudley? We kind of talked about it a little bit.
Yeah, again, can't happen. I don't care. I mean, this is a kid that, obviously these last few games, the rushing record kind of got away from him. I know it's probably something that he'll think of in the back of his mind, but not really. He's not that kind of kid. But, yes, as I said, there's no way 10 carries, 11 touches should be the limit. I don't care if you're getting out physicaled up front, as Coach Pittman said. You've got to find a way. That's on him. That's on the offensive coordinator, Kendall Browse. You've just got to get him the ball. You did a tremendous job doing it at the first of the year.
Yeah.
It slacked up at the end of the year.
Yeah, and Pittman even said, because somebody asked him about that in the press conference, and he was like, we were just trying to get something going. We needed to get the passing game going more, but with Matt Landers having success there. But that still doesn't excuse the fact that one of the best rushers in the SEC had 10 carries.
Yeah, not his best answer.
I didn't think so.
It is what it is not the best answer.
It is what it is not the best answer. Razor Alex 88 on Hogville asks, why must we be cursed on Faro Field? It's like our team had a crapping the bed curse placed on us every time they step foot on that hideous stadium. It's pretty much every time we play there, I end up very infuriated. And the question goes on to even explain why they're so infuriated. I should just never watch a game that takes place in Columbia again. That might do wonders for my blood pressure. I agree with that last statement.
Well, I would think that it is not the best facility in the SEC. They're working to get it better, but I see what he's saying in that regard. But here's the problem. I think most of these matchups, Missouri has been a better football team and has had a better football program over this last decade. That numbers just show you that. The wins show you that. I don't think there is a curse. But one thing I do think, and I think it matriculates down to the fan base, is that Missouri really is excited about this series. When they get the win, they smoke cigars, they dance on the field, all that. Arkansas's players, and to an extent their fan base, sit and worry so much about why it's called a rivalry instead of actually going out and thinking about the win. And I think there's a vast difference in the two fan bases in terms of the importance of this game. Maybe it's going to get moved when Texas and Oklahoma come into the conference and things are or the pods or however they do it. Maybe it won't be at the end, but if it is at the end, y'all got to get up for it. I mean, because they certainly
y'all
do.
would be excited for this one.
I mean, absolutely.
Well, the funny thing is, you say that Missouri fans are excited about the rivalry, but when me and Alyssa and DJ were there in Columbia, I was on the field for the game, and I looked around and I was like, they didn't fill out the stadium for this one. They didn't. So I feel like even on their side a little bit, they don't really get up and go, kind of for the rivalry as well.
Well, let's give them a 6 for the rivalry and Arkansas a 3.
Okay, I like that. I think I'll agree with you on that one. I do think it's a bit of a curse, though. I mean, it's been long enough. That's curse territory.
Play better defense.
Love it, Dudley. Slim 72315 on Hogville asks.
Don't sneak in your tight end. On the first and go, second and go. That's not a curse. That's a decision.
That's a decision. Yeah, exactly. Well, Slim 72315 on Hogville asks, will Pittman make staff changes, or will next year just be more of the same? And if you were in Sam's shoes, what changes would you make? Ooh, interesting.
Well, I believe I'm correct in that there have been 6 different coaches that he has either fired or shown where the door was, helped them exit and all that. And so I don't think he'll have any problem letting it go. Obviously, he's already let go of one within 24 hours of the end of
we're going to talk about
the
that.
game. So I don't think there'll be any problems. He has to make changes. You can't be 6-6 and just say everything's okay, because it's not. Now, I will say that they won the close games last year, didn't win the close games this year. But when you pride yourself on being physical, when you pride yourself on being tough, and you don't get that done down the stretch, then there's an issue, and you address it.
Oh, exactly. And we're going to talk about him addressing that. As you kind of mentioned there, Jameel Walker was let go not even, 24 hours after the game on Saturday, their strength and conditioning coach. And we actually have a question about that. A few people had questions about that. But CowHog32 on Hogville asked, why was Walker fired as opposed to just moving on?
I do think that there is, coaches, even though they try to make decisions based on just specifics, I do think at times, just like anybody else, there is a situation where you appease the fan base. You make sure they know that you care, and I think this was a situation that happened. There were plenty of things, I think, that probably went into this. Being out physical is that even a word?
Yeah, I don't know. Every time we say it, I feel like it's weird.
Yeah.
Out physical.
Yeah, but that, and I think there were some other things that kind of folded into the decision. But I think this was hey, I'm not satisfied. I want y'all to know I'm not satisfied. I was going to let this guy go anyway, and now he's gone. And that's the first appeasement to the fans, and do not think it will be the last. Yeah,
and also the whole press conference, I feel like the physicality was the theme of that post-game press conference. And when you make that the theme of something, it's hard to not kind of take action for it, right?
Yeah, and I do think there are two things you should never say in a press conference after you lose.
Okay.
They wanted it more than us, and we were out-physicaled. And certainly.
And it is what it is.
Yeah, that too.
It is what it is was a little bit, I don't know if I like that one. But Marty Bird's proxy on Hogville asked, regarding the transfer portal, when can schools start reaching out to players? Can there be any contact between players and a school other than their current one if initiated by the player before the portal officially opens?
First of all, love the name. I would have went with Ruth, but Marty Bird's cool too. I do think that the rules say that you are not supposed to reach out to a player until he gets into the portal officially. But that happens all the time. I mean, they don't reach out to the player, but they reach out to the family, the previous coaches he's had, uncles who are not really uncles. They're just, whether it be agents, runners is what they used to call them back in the day, friends of the program, and different things. So people certainly do that, and anybody who thinks that everybody follows the rules in that regard is nuts. But that's what you're supposed to do. But it has happened for Arkansas. It has happened against Arkansas, and college football is a business. It's not a sport.
It really is, and especially with the addition of NIL, it's even more of a business.
Cutthroat business.
Yeah, cutthroat business now with a lot of money attached. Dr. Starks asked, an earlier post mentioned the potential exodus of players is due to their disliking of the way disciplinary issues were handled. Any truth to this? And I think he might be alluding to the Miles Slusher situation as well, because that was a big one talked about there with players not liking how things were handled.
Well, this may be a old guy, you kids get out of my yard answer, but if you don't want to be here, get gone.
Yeah.
I mean, I have covered this program or been inside this program for 40 years now, and I can count on one time the amount of situations where a player was unfairly disciplined, who had no culpability, who didn't put himself in a situation. We could talk about the video and all that, but and I know this myself from younger, when I was 40 or something, that you should not be down on Dixon Street after 2 a.m., especially after a loss to Liberty. And we're speaking of Miles Slusher. I'm not trying to dance around that. I always thought he was a pretty good kid, but, we all make bad decisions. And there have been plenty over the years that, this has gone through. But discipline is something you have to have in a program. It was not in this program in previous administrations to the extent that it should be, both within the coaching staff and within the players. I think that is something that is here now, discipline, and you're either going to have to get used to it, as I said, or get gone. I'm not trying to placate anybody in that situation. I love to go out and have fun myself, but there's a time and a place, and as Mama always said, nothing good happens after midnight.
Yeah, and I think it was DJ who made the point, because he was a player himself. He said, as a player, you are held to a higher standard. You are. That's just how it is. They tell you that when you come in, when you sign your letter of intent, they go, you are held to a higher standard now. So when things happen, it may be unfair to the naked eye, but these players are held to a higher standard.
And speaking of video, there's video of Coach Pittman saying, don't do anything stupid. Don't put yourself in that situation.
Yeah, there is. You're totally right on that.
I wish everybody well wherever they go. But, I'm just saying.
Of course. We do wish all of those athletes well. Kevin on Hogville asked Dudley, Devo sits the whole second half of the SDSU game at the end of the bench during Must PC for Troy press conference from Troy. Sorry, not one question about why Devo did not play. Why not?
I don't know yet, but what I will say is Devo, while being a very talented player, being a very, very fast player, at times plays out of control.
He does.
I mean, I think that's,
I agree with that.
I think that's an accurate assessment, and he also is a very emotional one. You could tell over when he was sitting that he was not happy. He didn't do he wasn't excited as everybody after Kamani made the basket and all that. So, I think that all factors into Coach Musselman's decision. He can hold a grudge just like Coach Richardson, Coach Sutton did, others along the way. And I think that, it's either Musselman's way or the highway. And you're either with the team or you're not. And that has to be 24/7, 365. And if you're not, I think you sit over there with him and observe.
Yeah, I'm going to bring up a good thing that my dad says to his players, AIE, which means attitude is everything, right? And he will not play you if you have a bad attitude in practice that week, if you have a bad attitude on the bench, So I feel like almost a little bit, I don't know if that's Musselman's ideology, but I know he cares about that. That could be a reason why he maybe is not getting playing time.
Two other things about that. The question should have been asked. I wasn't there, but the question should have been asked. And also, you have a limited time to ask questions. Maybe it wasn't my colleagues who were doing it was their biggest thing. There was, a little bit more going on after that game and nobody was in Hawaii.
No, yeah.
I don't think that there should ever be a tournament in Hawaii again that I do not attend.
Sounds good, Dudley.
Shout out to Hogville, Pig Trail Nation.
Hey, I agree with you. I was telling Mike Irwin the whole week, I was like, I want to be there.
Yeah,
Can I be there?
And I think I've gone 8 times, it's a great thing. The event, we can talk about this a little bit, the event was great for Arkansas. They got in a lot of good competition, a lot of passionate competition, faced some adversity, got past it. And without Nick Smith Jr.
Right. That's got to say something as
well.
All
right, absolutely.
You're down your best
Dick
player.
Vitale yesterday was saying that Arkansas will probably maybe be a top 5 team if once they get Nick Smith back. So
I would love to see that, and I know the fan base would too. Pig's Feet on Hogville asks, how can fans run on the court after our team and coaches and there be no arrests? That sets a bad precedent. We were talking about that a little bit earlier. You saying that should never happen.
Yeah, as I said earlier, the fans should never come out on the court, the field, the pitch. And I know that sounds like another old man thing, but that's why they have security at all these places. That's why the ushers maybe act overzealous at times, because that's their job to take care of the court, to take care of the players.
And for their safety, too.
Yeah. And as far as arrest, from the video I saw, that's what we call a scuffle, a ruckus, or whatever. I don't know that there was any assaults or anything. There might have been if it had gone on a little farther, but I can guarantee you, having been over there a lot of times, and there having been 3 or 4 guys around, next year's Maui Invitational, we'll have many more people standing at the doors and around the court at the end of the ballgame. Yeah, I think they will up security. You say that that should never happen. Do you then agree with people rushing the field after games? No. Nope. Now, if you were Vanderbilt and you beat Tennessee on Saturday, I would have seen that. But this program here, and most programs that do that, LSU even stormed the field this year. Well, FSU fans were on the field after the Florida win this past weekend. Shot fired. Yeah, shots fired. Alyssa's in the room for that one. Yeah, but I think it's further and further evidence that while it's okay every once in a while, I'm just getting old and thinks everybody should just celebrate and go on their merry way.
Hey, well, that's your opinion. That's why this is Ask Dudley for this week. Razor Boo on Hogville asks, I like every Hog fan, is disappointed in 6-6, but the defense was in shambles with injuries and suspensions all fall, and the offensive line regress. What do we do to turn this into a 9-3 or a 10-2 season next year?
Pray a lot, because to go from 6-6 to 9-3 and 10-2 next year, I think is going to take a lot, because you're going to be missing some guys. They're going to have to hit great in the portal. They're going to have to keep all their commitments, and they're going to have to win the close games, which they didn't do. I think the staff has to be revised, and I'm sure he's going to do that. But really, it's not that easy. And they are going to have to go, as I said, they're going to have to go out and get a lot of great things in the portal and all that. But again, it's getting as disappointed as you were going from 9-4 to 6-6, going from 6-6 to 10-2. Would be a major achievement. I don't see it coming. So again, I go back to my first point: pray, hope.
Hope that they get a lot of good guys from the transfer portal. I think that's how you do that. Is if you hit the transfer portal hard. Yeah, the schedule.
I think the schedule is only the 5th or 6th toughest in the nation next year instead of number 1. So there are some wins there, but you better get them early, because the last 4 SEC games are going to be tough.
They're going to be tough for sure. And our final question today is a really good one. I like this one. Herdo on Hogville asks, what football coach inherited the worst situation from the previous coach over the last 25 years?
Well, my initial thought was Joe Kynes, who took over after Jack Crow lost to the Citadel, and was fired that Monday. So Kynes had to come in and get the team back up, and they went and beat South Carolina. So, that was good. But then I thought, well, maybe it was Houston Nutt, because he came in off of 2 4-7 seasons. I don't think a lot of people remember that. And you can argue about his tenure here all you want, his personality, all that. Certainly a great motivator, and I think a better coach than he was given credit for. But if we're going to be honest about this.
Okay. I'm waiting.
You have a coach here that took over after 2 2-10s, had a 3-7 record his first year, and then was not able to recruit because of COVID. Go out on the in the recruiting team. So, I think it's Sam Pittman now.
Oh,
and I've
like
been
that.
around for 40 years, and I've seen a lot of things. And it wasn't just on the field that needed to be corrected. They had people here who were okay with losing.
Wow.
They eradicated some of those guys in the program, put them on the waiver wire or whatever. I think that there are people here that care more about winning now than they do about not losing, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, he really came in and cleaned up a
mess. You
mess.
hear culture all the time, and that's certainly something that has happened. And yes, I know they went 6-6, and yes, I know people are going to leave because of the portal, but that's going to happen everywhere. 1,700 kids got in the portal last year.
Wow.
At all these institutions. So you can expect 10 or so here, just like you can expect. Alabama had 8 last year, Georgia had 7, and I hear they were pretty good.
Yeah, I hear they were pretty good last year, Just, maybe a national championship for one of them. Yeah, that was pretty good. Thank you so much for joining us on this week's Ask Mike or Ask Dudley. Thank you so much, Dudley, for doing the show with us. And we'll see you next week to answer more of your questions.